Well, good morning, church. I hope that you're all doing well this Saturday morning. And it's so good to be with you in this way, not near as good as being with you face to face, but so thankful for all of you that are joining in with these straight talk interviews and just leaning into some of the information that we're given. I think it helps us have a more well-rounded perspective. And today, I'm really excited to have my friend Jay Klopfenstein with us. I call him Dr. J. And he has been part of our congregation, and he was a pastor for 25 years in Canada, in Ottawa, Canada, at Metropolitan Bible Church. He is currently, since 2015, the president of a ministry that we're going to hear more about called TNet International. And he and his wife, Nancy, have been part of this congregation for a little over a year now. And he's preached here, but he's been a major encouragement for me as a pastor in these last couple years, and been a great encouragement for our church. He has 3 wonderful children, Caleb, Jared, and Alexa. And Caleb is married, and they have 2 grandchildren and another one on the way. And so, Jay, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Zach. It's awesome to be back with you guys again, and looking forward to sharing.
Yeah. Well, Jay, tell us a little bit, for those who haven't been here when you've preached. Tell us a little bit about the ministry of TNet International and what your guys' vision is.
Yeah. Well, at the risk of being redundant with those who have heard from me before, we're a ministry that is committed to, we call it finishing the Great Commission. So our mission is to finish the Great Commission in each of the 238 countries of the world. Right now, we're in about 45 different countries. Some are closed. Most of them are in Africa and Asia. We're in the Caribbean. We've got a little bit of work going in South America right now, North America, Canada. So we're all over. What we do is we go into a country, and right now, since we've grown so much through our contacts, we meet with people in the country that are interested in doing what we do, and then we commit to teaching and training them and giving them the tools they need to saturation church plant, multiply discipleship, multiply disciple-making leaders, and strategize to reach their entire country. So our goal is that every neighborhood in a country would be saturated with disciple-making churches, and that every person would have been personally invited to receive Christ in that country, and that every follower of Jesus that has come out of that would be nurtured in an ongoing disciple-making process. So we have a disciple-making, church planting, equipping type of a ministry. And right now we've got about 15,000 leaders around the world in our training. So it's a pretty neat thing to do after pastoring for close to 30 years in North America, primarily Colorado, South Bend, Indiana, and then Canada. It's neat to see what's going on around the world and have an impact on the world that way. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's amazing to hear the stories of what God's doing around the world, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you to speak to us as a church today. I think during this pandemic, one of the things that has happened is we've gotten so focused on what's going on around us, what we can immediately see, and what's going on in our country. And there's a lot going on globally, and you sit in a unique place because you're able to have these conversations with people in other continents and other places, and get to hear more about not only how this pandemic is affecting some people in the world on the negative side, but what's happening with the gospel also. Give us a little bit of perspective of how this COVID-19, this challenge, has affected some of the pastors that you're in contact with.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's changed the way we do ministry right now, because a lot of what we do is travel and interact face to face with people around the world. So we've been doing that from home as we've been shut in place, and doing it through things like Zoom and Skype and all that stuff. And so I have the privilege of connecting with leaders and pastors and church planners around the world on a weekly basis, face to face. And it was really neat, Zach, to have you with us today, this morning, for our prayer meeting. But yeah, so like in Africa, we're finding out, it's crazy. Africa has some of the fewest cases listed in the world, yet they've got some of the most extreme response to this whole thing, where there are, not just lockdowns, but there's incredible brutality going on in some countries in Africa. We talked with and prayed with one of our guys this morning from Cameroon, who's been a recipient of a lot of the brutality. He and his family and church people have it's giving tyrannical governments opportunities to do some brutal things. We found out, again this morning, that one of our leaders has a daughter who has the same thing that Anna was struggling with while she was in Africa. And for them to get to the hospital, they need to get permits, and then they've got to pay hundreds of dollars to get a special vehicle to take them to the hospital to get family members care. In Uganda, it's so bad that women are giving birth along the side of the road. And if you go to give them aid, you could be charged with attempted murder. So Africa has got some real issues right now. Asia is pretty much responding with just hardcore lockdowns. So our team in Singapore that does a lot of our work in Southeast Asia and around all throughout Asia is completely shut down. India's pretty well shut down. Our work in the Caribbean, all that's shut down. North America, the same. So yeah, just a lot of different responses, and it's showing the human nature, the sin nature of mankind in some countries right now, the way they're dealing with this. So yeah, we think we've got it rough here in America and in Colorado, but compared to brothers and sisters around the world, we actually are extremely blessed right now.
Yeah, that's what I was hit with this morning when I was listening to those pastors, is just the extreme nature of what they're facing.
Yeah.
And the one pastor was talking about having people in his house and hiding them.
Yeah, right.
And I was thankful that I went last for my prayer request because, it was just humbling to hear what was going on, and humbling to hear kind of the persecution and the challenges that those pastors were facing. My heart really went out when I heard about the girl Catherine who couldn't get to the hospital. I thought, man, I just can't imagine that. And they're facing some really extreme things.
For sure.
The other thing you can't help but notice when you're with those pastors is they talk about those challenges like I talk about having to wear a face mask, into City Market. There is just a perspective there of faith and joy and hope that, man, it's incredible to be around it.
One of the things that we chatted about via text before this, you and I, was some of the things we might talk about. And, when you can learn a lot from these guys and their faith. They're, some things that have really struck me is how unyielding they are, even during brutality and persecution. They're just completely unyielding with the gospel. It does not slow them down. In fact, it probably speeds them up and gives them more passion. And they are unbelievable prayer warriors at this time. They don't worry, it's funny. We worry about being inconvenienced, whether it's putting on a face mask or, I was bummed out when the archery shop in Poncha Springs had to close down for a while and I couldn't go take my bow in to get it tuned. And these guys, the last thing on their mind is being inconvenienced at all for the gospel. And they work hard for the gospel. I mean, they work tirelessly. Some of these guys, I just can't. I don't know if God's given them a special something, but they'll sleep 2 hours a night. And one of my guys, he was on the call this morning. He gets up for his prayer time every day at 1 a.m. And it's just they've just got a different perspective. And so I've been learning a lot by the interaction with my guys on a more regular basis through this whole COVID thing, to not worry about the inconvenience or the things or the material things of this world. A passage I spoke on last Sunday to a group out of the Caribbean was on Psalm 23:1, and I shall not want. For these guys, they're living this. If Jesus is my everything, there's nothing I need. I have everything I need to be perfectly content right now. And they just live that and breathe that in times like this. It's been pretty riveting.
Yeah, and to hear them pray, to hear one thing that struck me this morning with their prayers was the prayer for their governments and their prayer for God to intervene in those situations. But they're,
Right.
Even though they're facing such greater extreme of, I would say, evil in
Right.
government overstep, there's a softness of compassion towards those people. It's not the anger that
For sure.
I struggle with, even in
Yeah.
even in our world. There's really a compassion that God has this, and that our role is to pray and to come before His throne, that He's got this, and and to really trust Him with that.
Man, isn't that awesome? And you hit the nail on the head. We can watch the news here, and we can see responses of different states. And I won't name the state, but there's a state this morning that I've actually lived in that they're taking up arms and it's getting militant. And you can hear somebody come on the news, and a particular individual starts to talk, and it's an individual that's driving us crazy, that their voice just grates on us now because they're not telling us what we want to hear. And it just gets us angry, or we have no compassion or love for these people. We just have anger, or we want justice and all this stuff. Man, you hear these guys talk overseas. They are praying with tears and love for the government officials that are doing like exponentially far worse to their people than our government ever does. And it just really reminds us, as Christians, our response is not to be militant and to seek, and I got to be careful because I don't want to step on anybody's feet, but I don't think our role is as Christians is to primarily seek political justice. Our role is to seek the lost and to love the lost and to pray for the lost and to let God take care of some of those other things. And so I think we see that played out when we talk to our people overseas in ways that we never see it here in America.
Yeah, there's a laser-like focus for the glory of God and His goodness, and that their lives would be a witness for Him in the midst of this. And I think there's a deep trust that that's going to be, that really is going to be what overcomes the evil in the world. Not that we shouldn't be politically active or speak up or hold our government accountable. Right. All those things are great.
It's part of being a citizen, but that's not who we are at our root.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes the things that make us most angry are often tied to what our greatest priorities are. And
careful, man, careful, buddy. You're treading on some real stuff here.
And so it's I think it is good for us to think about these things. And I wonder too just how times are changing and how the church is going to be treated differently in North America. and how we can start to prepare
Mm,
our own spiritual capacity to go through persecution and trials by learning from from our brothers and sisters around the world.
boy, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. That's our pastor throwing down. That's good stuff.
Um, One of the, I think, it's overwhelming just to see the needs in our own community
Mm.
at times. But what are some ways you think, as a church, we can encourage our missionaries and our partners, the people that we're connected with around the world? What are some helpful ways that we can be reaching out?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one is kind of doing what you're doing right now and finding out what the need is. It would be easy just to give the stock answer. Yeah, pray for them and don't let up on your support of them because they're probably losing supporters. Right? That's just the given stuff. But I think some of it is finding out what are the real needs. So, like, here's just an example, a story, just to illustrate that for you as a pastor and as a church. You mentioned the one guy this morning who had some of the brutality that's going on. His name's Johnson, and literally last night, and I wouldn't have known this had I not communicated with him. Literally last night, the military killed three civilians near his home, and it caused a lot of the inhabitants of the area to flee to other homes. And so, as a result, he's got multiple people that aren't his family seeking shelter and hiding out with him. And now, his need right now is he wants to put up a security fence around his house just to reinforce physical security. And I would never know that if I wasn't communicating with him. I would just think, I got to pray for this guy. I got to just make sure he gets his support and all this stuff. But I think prayer and support obviously are enormous, but I think it's discovering, are there needs we don't know about? And the only way you can do that is by communicating with the people that you've partnered with, and just loving them like that. I think they want to be loved. They want to be they want to hear from the churches that support and love them, and that would probably mean the world to them right now.
Yeah, that's really good. There was another pastor, wasn't there, that lost his car in a fire or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, same guy, same
Okay.
guy. He was. They pulled him over, threw gas on his car, threw gas on him, beat him. We're trying to decide how they were going to kill him. They had him at gunpoint, and while they were arguing about how they were going to kill him, he snuck off into the jungle, and they burned and blew up his car. And he hid out in the jungle and eventually got home. And we said, we need to move you away from there. And he said, no, this is where I'm most effective. I'm staying right here. And so now he's the one that's sheltering people that were family members of those who were killed last night. And we just have no idea.
Yeah, and I was complaining because I could only buy one chicken item at City Market, one item of chicken, and so it was.
Oh my goodness. I think it's time for you to start getting some 4-H chickens, buddy.
Hey,
That'll
that's
take care of
true.
that problem.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do need more animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that is so good. Just taking time to listen and hear what life is like for
Yeah.
people in other cultures and what they're facing, not only to care for them, but like we said before, all that we learn from how they're walking through this and the kind of faith that they're leaning on as they.
And my encouragement to the church is it's Psalm 23:1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He's my shepherd. He's going to lead me to pastures. He's going to lead me to water. He's going to protect me. He's going to shelter me. So there is nothing I need that I don't have right now. That he has given me everything I need to be perfect, even in the midst of struggle, even in the midst of disease, even in the midst of heartache and family struggles and financial woes. And for a lot of people right now, they're going to be struggling with the loss of a business and their livelihood. And that's when you got to really lean on, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He knows what's going on. He's got this. there is something in this for me, and I'm going to trust him in the midst of this storm. And that's what I've learned from my brothers and sisters overseas more than ever over the last few months, as they go through this um, in just so much of a deeper and more profound way than we are here in America. It's caused me to really decide, am I really going to trust Jesus that way? And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
Good
word.
stuff. Yeah.
That's a great word, Jay. And I so appreciate your pastor's heart. It was so neat for me to hear you interact with those pastors and encourage them. And I was encouraged. And thank you for the ministry of to our church and to me personally. And it's great to hear more about what's going on in the world. And so I sure appreciate you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. We love you guys, and we're praying for Clearview, and look forward to when we can all get back together 6 feet apart. Gonna have to build a sanctuary that's 6 times the size that it is now, so we can all get together. So.
I know it is. It's gonna be. We're gonna have to have some creativity to figure out how we're gonna get everybody back in. So, cool. Well, I sure appreciate you, and have a great rest of your day. And thanks thanks for being with us. Blessings.
All right.
Okay.
Blessings.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Well, church, I hope you're encouraged by our time with Jay, and I think it's worth all of us taking a little bit of time to back up from our own challenges and what's going on in our own community, but also in our own country, and take some time to look at some of the struggles that people are facing around the world. And you kind of have to dig for that. You don't hear these kind of stories on the news right now, but reaching out past our own country has been sure good for me and given me a good perspective. So I hope that you're encouraged, and I'd ask that we all take a little time today as we go through our day to think about those people, especially in developing nations, and some of the struggles they're going with, and lift them up to the Lord. And if you have someone that's in another country, take just a moment and text them or Facebook message them and tell them that you're praying for them, and ask them what life's like in their part of the world. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.